Good. Thank you. So again, this is the list of examples we worked
Oh,
on.
you have to share it again.
And yes, sure. Don't get used to this. Uh-huh. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Good. Well, that's the list, as I said. And we were talking about the first example, which is running on the server here. And this is the URL of the server is up there. And you can try it whenever you want. As I said, we only use this scenario, the one online 496, to test it, right? But the thing is, we hope to be able, actually we tried that, to feed scenarios like this into the system by the API from JavaScript code,
Yep.
normally things. And also, of course, provide a query to answer. So basically what we wanted to show you is what happened when we have we want to produce an explanation of whatever we are asking the system.
Yep.
And so there it is. That's the thing we can do. We have some thoughts about how to improve these explanations.
Yeah, well, the explanation is what we want. Yeah, the explanation along with the result is obviously the key, right?
Yeah, yes, and that's, I think it's working well. We can actually point to any place inside the knowledge base to see where that deduction came from,
Okay.
like this case,
Yep.
by clicking on the seed. And also in this case, we can go to the guideline to see where the whole thing was thought
Oh,
of,
yes. Okay.
which is the other thing. but again, I think I think I have to start telling you one of the things we found out, which is, I think, transcendental for this, is the fact that when we are encoding guidelines, we always have more than one interpretation, and sometimes it's not easy to guess which one it is, the one we have to use. I mean, the guidelines are good for for human beings to think about the thing and maybe find something similar to the case they have on their own. But for to stack the rules, it is safer, especially if you want to explain it later, to go to the original
Yeah, to go to
documentation.
the legislation.
Yes, and that's what we did with the second example,
Okay.
Andrew. We have this second example, which we work more on it, and actually I don't really have a clear estimation of how long, but we spend much more time on this one, which also was something we had to work before. We started it again, and what I did was I went back and tried to find a source
This is the
for
old.
the.
This is all the old tax log, which is now translated to logical English.
I started again. I mean, I did not translate the start.
Oh.
I went to the original source, which Miguel didn't do before. He went to the guideline. He worked on that example from the guideline. But I first of all, I could not find that guideline again. They changed the website and the office in Australia. But I found the original source of the legislation, which is here, which is the one I was referring to,
Yep.
the Income Tax
Which is
Assessment
better.
Act.
Which is much better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. That's a kind of combined thought, because it is better because we get a clear um, way to define which is the proper rule for each case. I mean, I took this, for instance. This is the first section of that legislation about the meaning of the net value of a CGT asset. And that's the actual document, the wording of it. And I tried to reproduce the same structure on the code. So this is the code. This is the first rule for that. And the thing we found that we needed to do that is not here is that this is typical in legislation to have the rule and then exceptions written somewhere else, not exactly on the same paragraph. It's not that look, you are applying this rule, you have to check of these exceptions. That's not the case. But in our code, we have to do that. So I have to include a condition like this to actually check that the CGT assets that have been verified are not disregarded. They are the actual asset that has to be taken into account. And for that, of course, I have to add some other rules to deal with those. And so it grows a bit, especially because these regarding rules are not simple. They have some meat in them. So everything you see here as a comment is the actual document, the original document.
Yeah, yes.
So I try to capture that. And so, and then, so look at this. This is the original source of the legislation. I have to, it's not just one, it's more than one. And then I have to, of course, fight against the scenarios, which is the thing I wanted to show you. I think I have this here better presented. First of all, we also have a list of queries that we can answer. There you are. If you click, you go to the code in the repository. And this scenario, for instance, this is the first scenario in the guideline. So I took the guidelines to extract the information that we have to feed the code to answer questions. And in this case, Collins is the owner of a small shop, news agency, and but he's working with the building and the facilities of his son, if I'm not mistaken here. And so it's a combined situation in which it seems that Collins is affiliated or is connected with somebody else, but it is not. So I have to transform this scenario into a description of it, which is this. Of course, the numbers are mine. It's not that is there. So I can go to the code, and that's a different example, and ask the system whether Collins is going to pay or, yeah, I have all this. Sorry, this is not this one. Let me hide this. Whether he is going to pay, he satisfies this minimum value, you know, that's the question. And there it is. It's, in this case, I made the numbers to add to 0. So he's actually satisfying the minimum, the maximum. But that exactly. But this is one of the things I wanted to show you. We refer the conditions we are able to prove, but we also show the things that we cannot be proved in that context. This is something we are still discussing, because in things like this, we do have things that what can be proved from the information we have from the scenario, a hypothesis. But even with that information, we still fail because, of course, there are more conditions. It's just not one. So that's something we are thinking, how to actually show properly a negative response so that the user has information. But there, it's working. That's what I wanted to show you, basically. And again, that can be done with all the examples. And it wasn't easy because I have to reconcile a number of rules. There are different rules for each case. This is second example, for instance, have this very peculiar concept of using your own home, which is basically exempted by the legislation. But for income producing, you have to declare it and still pay for it, according to the percentage you use for income production. And they represent it like this. They have these peculiar rules. I mean, out of the time you have, you extract a percentage, and then you add up the percentage along the time. And then you end up with things like Bill, in this case, has to pay this fraction, 15.8% of the total value of the house. I mean, he had to declare it to pay income.
He has to declare that as the taxable component.
Exactly. So this example, which is full of percentage and numbers, is encoded here. Not very clearly, I'm afraid. This is not very good English. I apologize, but I mean, the idea is, of course, to have this as a form, maybe something that the user can fill and not actually write it in English. But so that's what I did, and there you have. And the funny thing about, no, that's not the one that is funny. I'll show you later. This is another one with on the table, again, a list of assets. And in this case, it's also provide information about liabilities, and some of which apply and some do not. I mean, that's something we still don't know exactly how, because in the example, they argue that because of the type of liability, it's not, these two in particular, I think, are not,
Yeah,
are not
certain provisions wouldn't be
taken
acceptable.
into account, exactly.
Yeah.
Because in general, you can just add the liabilities as part of the things you are exempted from, basically. So I have to, again, I recorded the scenario like this. Of course, the reason I'm showing you this is because this is the work we do have to do with somebody else, an expert on the domain, because they would know how to actually declare this kind of things as basic information, the list of things. So well, that's done anyway, and in one way at least to show that it's possible. But this LAN example, I think, it was more interesting because in the expression of the example, they explain how to actually compute the net value of this lady Lana, and it is here. You see the formula.
Yep.
They adopt the whole thing, and then they rest this other number, which is computed with a similar structure as the example above. And our code can do this number, but in a different way. It's not the same thing. I mean, this is LAN example where it is here. And it's all the rules. I mean, it's not that he thought of, you see, this is.
Yeah, it still reaches the same conclusion.
The same conclusion, but with a different procedure in general. It's not what they are doing there. Actually, I don't understand why they do this. I mean, why they said that this is exempted, but they still counted it. So that's something I could not actually understand. But that's why I suppose we need somebody with some more knowledge of the tax.
Yeah, I'd have to. Yeah, that's interesting. Let me have a look into that one.
Yeah, and when, yeah, we can go back and forth and of course fix the rules with the thing. These are more simple, the last two, 5, which is just to show that this couple, these two ladies, I suppose, Olivia and Jill, share some professional practice, and they have control. They both have control of it. So that's funny because with the rules we encoded, I have to declare that Olivia controlled the partnership and also Jill controlled the partnership. But then everybody controlled everything because of the way we encode the rules. Show you this kind of thing here. See, we had Olivia connected to the partnership, and then Jill is connected to the partnership, and that partnership is connected to Olivia, vice versa.
Yep.
And then the partnership is connected to the partnership, and this is all coming from the rules of the way we encoded it, which is also true, right? This is not wrong. And finally, we have this. This is like a catch. This example 7, which is to do with this. How to call it, affiliates, basically, and also
yes.
who
Okay,
control.
well, that's really interesting that you've got that far through.
Well, I had some help because in the previous attempt we have that affiliate example, a very simple one,
Yep.
and I had a rule there. So I took that rule and put it inside here and added to the rest of the code, and now that thing can reason about that situation in particular.
Yep.
And I think
because that is actually, that affiliate rule stuff is not simple. It's quite complex.
It's not. No. That's true. But I'll show you the reason in that case, because you're right. It's not simple. That's the last one, I think. So in this case, the intention of the example is to insist that even though Daniel does not have the highest percent of the shares, he still can control the company at UV Art Supplies. And it's because the commissioner is satisfied that he doesn't. And that's basically the information we get from the scenario.
Yeah,
And
so you've worked through the control by the percentages. and you reached the right conclusion there.
Correct, exactly. And it wasn't easy. I mean, I have to, maybe I don't have the exact rule I need. So one of the things we have to validate is the form of that rule. I don't think I can show you here the rule easily. Maybe I can. I'm sorry. It's somewhere up there. It's a complicated thing, but the thing is, it's counterintuitive because Daniel gets to control the company because the commissioner is satisfied that he's in charge of it. But this rule is actually excluding the other one, Lahan, I think, is the other owner who has a higher number of shares, higher percentage of the shares. So he could be, if we don't have this information here, he could also be in charge of the company because he has a percentage which is smaller than 50 and greater than 40% of the shares. And that's
Jacinto, can you comment out lines 513 and 514 and see what happens with the same query?
if I want, you mean, no, this.
Yeah, and this in a 513, 514, comment them out.
Yes. Here. I'm sorry. Yeah, see, Lahan is now in control. The first choice, but not the only one. Next one is Daniel. So they both are entitled to control the company in the case that the commissioner has not given any opinion. That's the situation. Yeah. So yeah, that's that example. We also have another example, I think, to show you, which is the data protection policy. I think I presented that.
Oh yes.
Before.
Yep.
We have a video. I don't know if you saw it. You asked for a video, short video to explain.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the video.
But there it is. It's
Awesome.
in YouTube. You can see
Okay,
it.
great.
And the thing I want to show you, because otherwise Miguel is going to kill me, is the JavaScript on which he spent some time also. We have, I think it's here somewhere. Yeah, this is the code. I don't know if it's clear, can be seen. This is JavaScript, sorry to show you the software code. I think just to point out a couple of issues. First of all, we need a server. We had to have LE working, running on a server. We are not going to use the switch interface for this. We can work independently, but we still need a server.
Yeah, of course. Makes sense.
The translator. So that's we can have it locally, or we can use the server that Miguel has online. It's also enabled for this automatically, and those are the kind of method we have for the interface: load file, load string. It can be a string. It has to be a file, and the file has to be inside the server, of course, and then we can load the facts and query. We can load any scenario and the queries we need, which is exactly what we have here. And this, I'm afraid, this is translated already into Prolog. So we need to know how to see the code, the document after the translation in Prolog to be able to query for this API. I was trying, but I could not get there, to accept it is possible to, of course, to accept a expression, a proposition, or a description of a scenario and translate it into Prolog before querying. And we can ask the translator to work also here, but Miguel could not complete that part of the work. So it's very simple now, the API. But it's working. I mean, that's one of the things I want to show you, but I think I have to show you with another machine.
So what you're saying is that you would really have to.
Sorry.
Some feedback there.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that you can't query it with logical English syntax. You have to use the original Prolog syntax to query.
We have to use the translation we get. Yes, in this case, we will have to do something like this. Let me show you. So they all have this translation seen to Prolog. In this case, with this, we will. we already have those. And the parser basically creates translation of the
Right.
document
Yeah.
whenever we
Yeah, I
query it.
understand, yeah.
So we have to have something like this, access to this information. But again, I could do it with a little bit more time. This is the translation of the scenario. It's not very easy to read, but there it is. Taxpayer is the owner of one Bitcoin, for instance. So the information is there, and of course we have all these ways to connect English with the Prolog structure inside. So that everything is available already. So it's only a matter of finding how to use it from JavaScript. But yeah, I was trying to make it run on the other machine. Let me see if I switch my microphone here. Give me 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yep. There's a better. Oh yeah, that's all right.
Good. Yeah.
No, there's a reverb. Maybe you have to turn off your other microphone, disable your other microphone, or your.
Or disable the, or just log out of the other computer.
Oh yes, because we can see you in 2 places. Of course, I see what you're doing. Yeah, we can't hear you now.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, that's the bad one. That's the bad one. We want the other one, if possible. Okay. Okay. So which? Right. Okay, that's good, but we don't hear you.
I'm back.
Yep. Now you're
Good.
back. Yep.
It's not leaving me share things. Good. Wait a minute. Now I'm do it. Do it. So complicated this. Can you see the screen now?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. I have the server running on my machine locally
Okay.
with the same example. And to run it, I just have to do this. Just call it from JavaScript. It will go to the server and it will give me the answer. This is the answer to the question of before. This taxpayer must pay on this asset on this date, basically. So that's an answer coming in JSON format from the server, basically. So that's basically what the API does this part. You can upload the file or a string with the content of the file and get the information back from the via HTTP.
Yeah. So you're uploading the .pl file. You're uploading the Prolog file.
It is, yes. We are uploading. Yes, definitely. I don't think, yeah. Let me show you here. Here it is. I'm using my Visual Studio Code. You know, this is the file I'm loading up now. And it's this one. And let me show you this because I can also show off our latest accomplishment in the project, which is this editor mode for Visual Studio, so that we can highlight.
Oh yes, yeah. You were talking about making that as a feature, which was really useful for people who are used to using Visual Studio.
Yeah, but also it's going to change our life because we now can see the variable places in a template, for instance, things like this, and we get all this syntax highlighting of LE. So now we can easily point to where the variables are and the operators and everything. There it is. But this is the example, and so yeah, I just loaded up using that code, log file, and then I query it using this other one, log path and query, loading these paths, which are the ones in the scenario.
Yep.
And then asking.
Just for your information, Jacinto, it's actually quite blurry, but I'm assuming that's because it's maybe it's a server. Oh, maybe because of the way this machine is rendering. Your machine is rendering the image.
Okay.
But it's
Sorry,
okay.
I can make a video with my own resolution here.
Are you frozen? Frozen on my end.
Yeah, that's